What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy P. Skip. Welcome to the best half hour of your entire Tuesday. You know what time it is. It's time to get into his court. My squad with me, T-Mac.
Hola.
Chili Will.
Gracias, amigo.
Let's do this. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24, and I'm going to read it a bit, says this. Do you not know that in a race, all runners run their very best to win, but only one receives the prize? Run your race in such a way that you may seize the prize and make it yours. Verse 25 says, now, every athlete who goes into training and competes in the games is disciplined and exercises self-control in all things. They do it to win a crown that withers, but we do it to receive an imperishable crown that cannot wither. Therefore, verse 26, I do not run without a definite goal. I do not flail around like one beating the air, just shadow boxing. But like a boxer, I strictly discipline my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached the gospel to others, I may myself not somehow be disqualified as unfit for service. Now, I said that to say, at the beginning of the NBA season, everybody was disciplined and running their race. Everybody was ready, thinking, I think this is our year that we can win this. But now the playoffs have hit, and reality has hit a whole lot of teams this year. That, hey, you ran your race, but you're not going to win. You're not going to get a prize. You're not going to get in. And here's the great thing about this year. Nobody tanked because they realized whatever's coming in the draft ain't worth tanking for.
I don't even know who in the draft, man.
Right.
I don't think anybody who knows anybody in the draft. You know, so this year, everybody had to put in the effort. And that those playing games really made people see that these jokers trying to win. They're really trying to win. It's not just some games that we're playing, but guys are really trying to get into this playoff because it don't make any sense to be out of the playoffs because we're not winning anything with the draft. And there's nobody to really package to move up for none of that. So I said that to say, let's just kind of look at what's been happening in the playoffs. That who do you think is going to end up winning this race? And what do you think? Let's start off in the beloved East. 1 versus 8, which is the Philadelphia 76ers versus who are they playing? Who the Sixers got in the playoffs? I'm trying to think.
Who are they matched up with? The Wizards?
Yes, the Wizards.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's going to be a sweep? Or do you think the Wizards are going to win one out of that?
I mean, I think with Russell Westbrook being out, I think that might be a sweep. I mean, anything can happen, in the playoffs. The injuries, I think, will take a toll. We'll probably get into the Boston and Brooklyn, piece as well. I thought Boston would get swept, but they didn't. So anything can happen. But I think Philadelphia is pretty strong this year. They're built to, try and win. And I think that, Coach Rivers really has them playing very, very well. They appear to be focused and not playing any game. I mean, Ben Simmons even has a level of intensity that I haven't seen since his career started in the NBA. So they seem to be kind of locked in and a little ticked off that many of the pundits seem to have given the Brooklyn Nets the Eastern Conference representation in the finals already. And Philadelphia saying, I'm the number 1 seed, not to mention what Milwaukee has been able to do. They've been probably the most impressive team in the playoffs thus far to me out East.
Will.
Hey, I think we need to get the brooms up.
Yeah.
I don't see it. And the reason why I don't see it is that really no one in the East has an answer for Joel Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
Joel Embiid really, before he got hurt, he was having an MVP type season. He's one of those players who usually get hurt around this time of the year, but if he stays healthy, Simmons usually get hurt this time of the year. But if those two stay healthy and the way they put some shooters around them, and then, like you said, we got Dr. Rivers at the helm, a steady hand. This has been my prediction the whole time that Philadelphia would come out of the East. I think they will come out of the East because they only got to play one of the other top three teams. Only I got to play Brooklyn or Milwaukee. So they got an easier path. So I think it's going to be a sweep. I don't think Washington has enough to deal with them.
Yeah, I agree. And let's go over to 2 versus 7, which is that Boston versus the Nets. Who, after Brown went down, saw Boston winning one game in this series? I don't think anybody saw that.
Hey, and silence fell across the room.
Yes. Yes. And I think the other thing is what they've shown is, and what I've been saying from day one, Brooklyn is vulnerable. They got chinks in their armor. This is a team that got one star, and he's not even a superstar. He's just a star, and y'all couldn't put them away. I'm telling you,
Wait, hold on, man. Wait a minute. Wait 1 minute here, Pastor. You got to give Kemba Walker some love. He is a star in this league. He is an all-star. He's a high performer. Although, I know you're talking about Brown and Jaylen Brown being out, but give Kemba Walker some love. I mean, because last night, even though the last game they played, even though he didn't perform a whole lot offensively, but he had a boatload of rebounds and played some tremendous defense and had a good floor game. So they do have 1.5 stars.
Let me say 1.5. I'd even give them that other half. I'd give them a legitimate, star treatment. But I do think that they're not superstars. They're just, stars. And so I will say this, though. One of the reasons that you talked about, Pastor Skip, I think us on this broadcast, we know that Brooklyn has some chinks in their armor, and just out of the history of the careers of their three-headed monster, Durant, Kyrie Irving, and the Beard, they've not shown up before. They've had some flakiness, they've had some things, and we've even said, I think, on this broadcast that one of the ways that they could stumble would be for those guys not to perform up to their tip-top elite levels. And I think we saw some of that. I do think that some credit ought to be given to Boston and his scrappiness and Jason Tatum's emergence as a bona fide, superstar. I mean, I appreciate the fact that he has been playing with an attitude of, because we're down, a star doesn't mean anything. We still believe we can beat these cats. So long as I'm on the floor and any of our other able-bodied teammates, we're going to play the game. We're not going to concede anything. If these dudes are going to beat us from Brooklyn, they're going to have to really bring it, because what I plan on doing is giving them 50 or however much I need to give them for us to get the W. So I think it did raise a few eyebrows, not the least of which in the Nets locker room, to let them know that, hey, this ain't no giving. This isn't, a concession. Nobody's conceding anything to you all. And for you guys to have lost a game to this team that doesn't even have their full arsenal, what does that do to the confidence of the Milwaukees and the Philadelphias of the world, who are at full throttle for the most part, despite Dante DiVincenzo's going down with his little injury? They, I think, have more confidence saying, man, if the gimpy Celtics can give you guys an L, we might be able to give you 4 L's to get you out of the playoffs, so we can go ahead and move on and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, whoever meets them in the next round.
Well, I think the intimidation factor definitely was shattered last night. Nobody's scared of them, but just the same thing in the West. Nobody's scared of anybody in the West. Everybody is vulnerable. This is the year where you really don't know exactly, we know who the favorites are, but that win by Boston under those circumstances, Brooklyn looked like they really didn't have an answer. They really didn't know what to do and how to overcome what the Boston Celtics was doing to them. So it's very interesting, man, how this stuff plays out. But that's why you got to play the games and watch. And then coaching comes into it. Some of the changes and the switching in the lineups and putting people in the starting lineups and putting people on the bench. All of that plays a huge role in it. And it's that time of the year where you got to put up or shut up.
Exactly.
And here's the thing I keep telling people. You mentioned coaching. People forget this is Steve Nash's first year head coaching anywhere, or even coaching on a pro level anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, he hasn't coached AAU or high school or anything.
Yeah.
He ain't coached the local YMCA team.
Right. And so you got him now dealing with personalities and trying to do X's and O's on the fly. And here's the thing that I keep saying. I'm just waiting for the Brooklyn Nets to turn into the Dallas Cowboys, because they're going to implode. They're going to. Because I look at I look at you got three divas. Call it what it is. I'm putting it out. You got three cats that's temperamental.
We'll call them prima donnas.
Same thing, but on a different.
Okay.
And so you got, first of all, Kevin Durant, who Golden State hurt his feelings, so he left.
Mm-hmm.
You hurt me. You made me go out there and play injured, and now look at my career. I'm out of here. Y'all don't care nothing about me. You got James Harden, who said, I need a superstar. Well, we gave you Dwight Howard. We gave you CP3. We gave you Westbrook, and you couldn't win with any of them. And Westbrook hated hated playing with you so much that he, after 1 year, he's like, trade me. I don't even want to play with him no more. So you didn't had people to help you win, and you could not.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Kyrie, who said, listen, basketball ain't even my first interest. Then why are we giving you $167 million for something you ain't that interested in?
Wow.
Mm.
So, and he said it out of his own mouth. This ain't my first interest. My first interest is the other stuff I'm doing in the community. So this is what you got dealing with them. Eventually, that's going to come up. And I don't think Steve Kerr has the pedigree. Steve Nash. Mm-hmm. I don't think he has the pedigree, the wisdom, or the legend, or the I don't think he has enough for them to go, okay, we'll do what the coach says. I don't think that's going to happen. I think when it comes to it, they're going to say, you know what? I know how to get buckets, and that's what I'm going to do. And I believe that's going to cause some major inter-squad turmoil, because there still is no clear-cut leader on that team. Nobody you can say, well, this is Kevin's team, or this is Kyrie's team, or this is James' team. There is no leader on that team. And the other pieces that they have cannot maintain a win if they aren't doing peak performance when they're on the court. So I look at them as, you so vulnerable, it's not even funny. And you are at a place where the Bucks are peaking now, and you still don't know what you got. Mm-hmm. And so I think out of the East, it's going to be Milwaukee, because they silenced all naysayers. Because I was on Clubhouse, and I was in this room, and this was before the first playoff game. And they said, yeah, I predicted Miami in 4. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold up, y'all. This ain't the same team from last year. This ain't the bubble team. We got different personality, different personnels, a different personality. There is some dog about this team that I ain't seen since Big Dog. Mm-hmm. That I'm like, this ain't them that you saw last year, bro. You better change your thinking about it. Whatever, Milwaukee, Miami in 4. I said Miami's gonna get swept. That's what I said. I said, because Miami has no answer for what the Bucks have. I said, this is what's gonna happen. First of all, you got the reigning defensive player of the year is gonna play defense on. And when he's switching off, you got PJ Tucker that's going to hold him. And then when he switches off, then you got Uncle Drew Holiday holding him. And when he switches off, then you got Chris Middleton. So you got such a mixture of defensive players that he can't get into a rhythm. And as you've seen, Jimmy Buckets hasn't gotten into a rhythm this whole series because of this defense. He's averaging like what, maybe 15 points a game, if that.
Yeah.
He's very unbucket-like.
20. Yeah, I mean, I think everything you said was great. I mean, the lead in on the defense, I think that has been a real pleasant surprise, for the Bucks. As I watched them, I was pretty confident that we'd be able to get past Miami in this first round. The level of ease with which that we've been able to do it in these first 3 games, I think has been most impressive. A couple of factors on the offensive end and just the overall psyche and temperament that the team has come with. Like you said, the dog that's there. I think the pain of these humiliating playoff losses of the past 2 years, they've really kind of took that, to heart. And throughout the whole season, there were indications that this might be a different approach that the players may have per person coming into this. I mean, Giannis saying things like, well, hey, whether we get the number 1 seed or not, we understand that having the number 1 seed does not guarantee anything in the playoffs. When you get to the playoffs, it's a whole new thing. With Drew Holiday saying things such as, hey, we don't need 3-pointers to win games. I mean, there have been some snippets, throughout the season that have given indication that these are some grown men now playing, and they understand that, hey, game time in the playoffs is different than game time in the regular season. It's been great to see. I think also with Chris Middleton, we talked about before, kind of diversifying the clutchiness of the team, not relying totally on Giannis and putting him not in the best position to have his best foot forward, but to expose him to some of his weaknesses. That wasn't a good thing. So hopefully Coach Bud would be willing to put the ball in the Drew Holiday's capable hands to run the offense, be the floor general, get players the ball in their spots. Also unleash him a little bit to do his thing, dribble, draw, dish, drag a joker to the hole, off the bounce, finish strong with either hand, right or left, at the rim, take the outside shot. Chris Middleton emerging as more than just, a half-baked Robin, but a legitimate threat who says, put some respect on my name. We wanted him to play like that, and I think we've seen all of that emerge. And we have a pretty strong bench and supporting cast that have really come in and been highly productive. I mean, with Chris Middleton hitting that winning shot in game 1, boost of confidence for him and the team, saying, hey, we do have some other go-to guys that can deliver in the clutch for real, which opened the floodgates for the blowouts. The Bryn Forbes guy coming off, shooting lights out off the bench like old school Vinny Microwave Johnson. Bobby Portis jumping in, being the enforcer, saying, back up off my superstars. Don't be giving no hard fouls or we're going to be throwing them. Joker, I done already left a team. You know what I'm saying, Will? I done already got kicked off a team for firing on some jokers. I will do it again. You know what I'm saying? So it's been a very, very pleasant surprise to see this Bucks team with some polish, with some tenacity, with some passion, and low-key confidence and expectation of winning. Last thing I'll say is Dante DiVincenzo, him going down, on the one hand, it affects our depth and our rotation a bit, and he has been coming on playing better in this last month or so of the season. But with him being out of the way, I don't think it necessarily hurts us or handicaps us too tough, because the jokers that was playing behind him, the aforementioned Bryn Forbes and others, have been balling out. Pat Connaughton, so they get more burn on the floor. And this might be a thing where less is actually more, because the most productive players that we have will be able to get more burn on the floor and maximize and amplify that productivity that they've just shown impressively thus far.
I mean, it's a lot that's different from last year, but I think the biggest difference in it, and I'm gonna go back to the Brooklyn thing a little later if you guys don't mind. Imploding in Brooklyn. But anyway, as far as the Bucks is concerned, I think the biggest difference is this. The last 2 years, Giannis had not signed his long-term contract. So the Bucks didn't know if he was gonna stay in Milwaukee or leave. And because of that, they were forced to give him the ball in the clutch. Because if y'all give Middleton the ball in the clutch, sign him to a long-term deal. If y'all give Bledsoe the ball in the clutch, sign him to a long-term deal. The Bucks didn't have any choice but to give him the ball if they wanted to keep him and sign him long term. And what you're seeing this year, they have him sign and they can say, look, Giannis, we're not trying to placate to you anymore. We're trying to win a championship.
Mm-hmm.
Step to the side. You ain't no good free throw shooter. You ain't no, knockdown jump shooter. So now they've moved the ball to some other people for the closing. And if you really look at it, the last 2 years, they issue was closing out ball games. Every team would foul Giannis. He only gonna make one free throw. They build a wall. He gonna shoot crazy shots. And they get the ball back. And I think that's the biggest change in the Bucks this year. Although they do got some rough riders with Bobby Portis and PJ Tucker. And Drew Holiday, quiet as he's kept, he's a rough rider too.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, he's a rough rider too. Yeah,
uh-huh.
so they didn't got a little tougher, and I think that right there is boded well for them. But this is the NBA playoffs, and everybody in the league is professional, and anything can happen on any given day. The DiVincenzo thing, I'm not even sure. I mean, I'm assuming Pat Connaughton will start, but that might not even be the case. They might start PJ Tucker. They might start Brent Forbes. So this right here is a coaching strategy that's going to be very important as we move forward. Now, let me go back to the Brooklyn Nets imploding, which I think is very interesting. The Brooklyn Nets have been the darling of the media, the NBA media, all throughout since they got together. Right. Nobody has ever said anything bad about the Brooklyn Nets. Well, the last time I checked, Brooklyn was in New York, and New York has one of the most brutal, toughest medias on planet Earth. Right. Now that they have lost the game to an undermanned Boston Celtics team, and a guy dropped 50 in their face, and people already said they can't guard their lunch. Mm-hmm. And now this has happened, and in steps the media and do what New York media can do to an individual or to a team or to a franchise or to an owner. And we all know that Kyrie and KD are some very sensitive fellows.
So is Harden.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's sensitive too.
So now let's see what the media does and what the media says. And then we talked about the coach. Coach, now all the people are going to be bringing up all his inexperience.
Right.
So let's see what role the media plays in all this too. So it's going to be interesting to see the next week of basketball, because in the next week, some of these games you lose could send you packing. So it's going to be very interesting to see.
Let me add this to the Bucks, and then we'll move on. The other thing on the offense, I think the best thing that could have happened to Giannis was him winning the MVP at the All-Star game. Because what he saw is, because LeBron was the point guard, let somebody else bring it up, and they can position me in a better position to get buckets. And what he saw was, Drew, you bring the ball up. Because when you bring it up, they can't key in on me. There's no walls. If Drew, you bringing it up, there's no walls for me, and I can do what I do, because I can get in my position, and they can't move me because I'm strong enough. But it took the pressure off him bringing the ball up, and he saw that I'm more effective when somebody else is bringing it up. And I think Drew doing that changed a whole lot, because you can't wall him now. You can't put the wall up. Because Drew, like, go ahead, put that wall up. I'll give you 3 for days. Mm-hmm. And that's what's been happening. A lot of the defensive schemes that they had for Giannis in the last 2 years, you can't use them no more, because they've got consistent knockdown shooters, and they have a point guard who is a point guard first, but also can get his own shot anytime he wants.
Yeah, and it's been a game changer for them. Drew Holiday's ability to be a Swiss Army knife for the squad, whatever, two-way player. You need me to be a shutdown defender. You need me to be the offensive guy to take some of the relief valve or the pressure off of Giannis. I'm more than capable of doing that. I can help him and others get into the best position, because we've seen Brook Lopez have more low post game than he had since he's been there, saying, hey, we don't need you to be out here living out here on the 3-point line like your Steph. Get your big behind down low and take advantage of the size disadvantages that you have against other players. Same thing with Giannis. And I believe that what they've been able to see is that, you know what? we can do something different and still have a measure of success, particularly in the playoffs. So hats off to Coach Bud for having the guts to tinker with the system, a bit. And those other factors you talked about, Will, as far as contracts and things like that, all those can be in the same pot of gumbo as different tributaries to this river of change, if you will, that we're seeing. But I think it bodes well for the team, and with them being able to exercise some demons, so to speak, on this Miami team who owned them last year on the court and probably psychologically, they are having a breakthrough. And I think that that's really going to help them to win this race, as that Corinthians scripture was talking about, going for the crown. And the crown for them is not just to make the playoffs, not just to be a successful winning team, but really to say, one, we believe we can get to the finals. And number two, low key, we believe we can actually win the whole thing for real right now.
Well, I think if the Bucks get to the NBA Finals, they can beat any of those teams in the West. The team that bothers me the most in the West for the Bucks is not the Lakers, it's not Denver, it's Utah. That's who they have problems with. Another thing that's a contributor to the success or the failure of teams this year is that you're not in the bubble. Now you got to go on the road. So some of those people who never had a hostile crowd or any of that, right, younger guys, inexperienced guys, they can come out, the Tyler Heroes of the world, and play like they had open gym. Mm-hmm. Well, it's a little different when you go on the road and you got crowds spitting on you and talking about your mama and putting popcorn on you and all that. It's a little different of a hostile environment. So some of those players going to play a little different. That's why it was very impressive to me to see what the Bucks did when they got down to South Beach, based on what had happened to them in the past. Yeah. The biggest difference, well, one of the big differences in the success of the Bucks this year and the failure of them last year is that they got those same open shots in the last 2 years. They just didn't knock them down. Right. This year, they're getting those open shots and they're actually making the shots. And I don't know if that's from experience. I don't know if that's from coaching. I don't know if it's just different personnel, more mature individuals on the team, because they went and got 3 new grown men. Right. So all of those things are contributors, but winning an NBA championship is very, very difficult. And the Bucks they've been knocking at the door a few times, and I think right now, if they ain't knocking at the door, they parking their car out front and getting ready to come down the walkway.
Yeah,
agree.
Well, I don't think I don't think the Lakers are going to win because the Lakers playing 2 different games than everybody else is playing. Everybody else in the West is playing, NBA basketball. The Lakers and AD are playing kickball. so
I hope there's an explanation with this. I hope you don't leave us hanging. I need an explanation, sir.
Right.
All you gotta do is ask Crowder. Crowder what he's
that's kick karate ball, actually.
Hey, that's kickball singular.
So listen, hey, great show, fellas. Next week we'll talk about the West. We'll see you same bat time, same bat channel, right here, Joy 1340 AM, 98.7 FM, Into Sports, the #1 faith-based sports talk show in the entire world. Have an amazing week. Peace.